Hi, my dear Astro family. Today, I want to talk to you about the Venus star point, which is going to be happening on the 13th of August. And basically, this is the rebirth of Venus. Exciting times ahead. So I hope you will like this video. And if you do so, please press like and subscribe to the channel so that I can make more free content for you. Now, I would like to make an announcement. I'm very excited that I will be holding a predictive retreat in November in Mexico. So I'm getting a lot closer to the US. People have requested me to visit US and hold a retreat there because it would be easier for you to travel and so forth. And I've decided to hold a retreat in Mexico. Hopefully, it's close by to you. So if you want to join, then please check out the description of my retreat. I will be putting the link into the description box below so that you can see where it is going to be taking place, what I will be teaching about. But this is pretty much about how to combine the predictive techniques. So we're going to be looking at progressions and solar return charts and so forth, and then how you can become your own personal astrologer, basically. This is going to be the major topic for us within that 5-day period. So I'm really hoping to see you there. But today we want to talk about this Venus star point. This is very important because it only gets activated every 8 years. So you might want to be just tagging along till the end of the video so that you can learn about it a lot more. First of all, the Venus star point is going to be taking place on the 13th of August, and it's going to be happening on 20 degree of Leo. So what is exactly the Venus star point? Basically, we have got an inferior conjunction. An inferior conjunction basically takes place between Venus and the Sun when Venus is actually retrograde and having a conjunction to the Sun. Now, what's special about this is that it's going to be taking place always in the same 5 signs every 8 years. So the last time when we had a inferior conjunction between Venus and the Sun in the same sign, in the sign of Leo, that took place in 2015, sometimes in August, sorry, and it happened on 22 degree of Leo. And every 8 years, it's going to be shifting approximately about 2 degree. So now it's going to be happening on 20 degree of Leo. And then 8 years down the line, it's going to be happening somewhere around 18 degree of Leo. So that's going to be taking place approximately about 2031. Now, Venus goes retrograde every 18, 19 months. So the last time we had a retrograde period that happened, for example, in the sign of Capricorn, and then you can actually go back 8 years before, and then you can have a look at, how the Capricornian cusp played out in your chart. So one of the first thing I would like you to think about is what was going on in your life in 2015, sometimes from August onwards, but you can also look at 2007 and 1999 as well, because we had the Venus star point happening around that time too. Now, you might want to be able to figure out your own Venus star point. So the Venus star point is basically, and I'm going to share the screen here so that you can actually figure it out. First of all, if you have got a Sirius program, then Sirius program is going to be able to actually help you with that. What you need to do is you're going to go on forecasts, and then you go on integrated listings and lunations and so forth. And then you can see a Venus star point and lifetime eclipse aspect. And you click on that, and then you can see that number one is Venus star point by Ariel Gottman. Now, she is the one who made this intense research about Venus star point. She noticed that, Venus goes retrograde in the same 5 signs for about 100, 120 years. And there is always a collective shift when actually the Venus star point moves into a new sign. So it is a little bit like a retrograde motion, pretty much. So as I said, 8 years before it happened on 22 degree, now it's going to be happening on 20 degree. And then 8 years down the line, it's going to be on 18 degree. So for example, we had a Venus star point shift after a good 150 years taking place in the sign of Libra. It actually shifted into the sign of Scorpio recently, which I did make a video about last year. So if you want to check that out, you can go and revisit that video. But it's not going to be uh, 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 just fully in Libra yet, because actually the next time when it takes place, it's going to be shifting back into Scorpio, and then finally, sometimes around 2031, 30, it's going to shift back into the sign of Libra. Now, so you can click on that, and then what happens is that you're going to get this little table here, and then you will see five dates here. Now, one of the most important for you is the one which happened just right before your birth. And that's going to be the main one for you. That's going to be basically your major Venus star point. So looking at these dates, you can see that I was born in 1983, February 6th, and then that one took place on 11 degree of Scorpio. So that's going to be the head of my Venus star point, basically the head of the pentagram. And then you can see that we've got two legs and two foot. It's kind of like looking like a human body when you actually think about the pentagram shape, the movement of the Venus, what it does. Basically, imagine that you put your two hands out and then your legs, and then basically it looks like a pentagram, right? So the head of that would be, for me, 11 degree of Scorpio, and then you can see the rest of the points there as well. Now, not everyone is going to be having a program. So what you can do is actually, you can go on this website called sophiavenus.com, and she put together something for us where you can see all the conjunctions from 1870 between the Sun and Venus. And then you will be able to actually even check with a diagram here when there is a little bit of a shift going on. So, for example, you can see that the Libra cycle pretty much ended sometimes in 1879, September 23rd. And then when you scroll down, then you will be able to see here that Libra is going to be starting sometimes anytime soon. So it started 2022, October 22nd, right? And then it took place on 29 degree of Libra. And then that phase is going to be lasting for a certain amount of time. So to repeat on that, a Venus star point is basically the degree of the last Venus and Sun conjunction, which happened prior to your date of birth. Now, there are basically two, how to call it, two conjunctions happening between the Sun and Venus, right? So once it's going to be making a conjunction when it has got a retrograde period between, a retrograde period of Venus and the Sun conjunction. As we said, that's going to be called an inferior conjunction, and that's when Venus is actually a morning star. And then we have got a conjunction happening between them too, when Venus is direct and the Sun is obviously direct as well. And that's when Venus is actually a evening star. Now, this conjunction, as I mentioned before, happening on the 13th of August, and it's going to be basically when Venus is becoming a morning star. Now, we call actually this morning star phase as a Persephone related morning star. Now, just think about what was going on with Persephone. Persephone was abducted by Pluto, and basically she was stripped away from her own power. She was stripped away from her own life, pretty much, right? And the series was extremely devastated by it, and then she brought hunger and famine on Earth because she wanted to get her daughter back. But at the same time, Persephone kind of fell in love with Pluto. Eventually, Ceres managed to get her back, but only for 6 months of the year. And then Persephone had to spend 6 months with Pluto underworld. So because we go down on the underworld here, Venus is a lot more reflective here. It's more about kind of like discovering something on an inner phase. Of course, Venus is retrograde, right? So you're going to have to think about what the Venus keywords are. So obviously, Venus is going to represent something to do with your talent, your love life, but also something to do with your natural gifts as well. Also, what is your relationship with money and so forth. And this Venus star point is, but at the same time, this could talk about your likings, your dislikes, what you really desire, for example. Now, you might be wondering, okay, but we have got a natal Venus placement in our chart as well. So, what's the difference between the Venus star point and the Venus placement of our chart? And Venus is more about what we desire, but we don't always act on that. So for example, let's say Venus in the sign of Taurus wants to be rich, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get rich, right? But we desire to have plenty of money. However, the Venus star point is more about a cultural trend. For example, it's going to show how the music industry is changing or how things in the art or the entertainment industry is going to be changing. But it pretty much gives a little bit of an extra layer to your chart interpretation. If someone has got a prominent Venus star point, then typically we tend to be playing out those planetary energies significantly. So what is a significant Venus star point? A significant Venus star point is when you have got a planet squaring, conjuncting, or opposing that Venus star point. So, as I said, you have got five of them, right? But the main one for me is, for example, the 11th degree of Scorpio. So, we would need to be looking at if there is any significant squares, oppositions, or conjunctions to that Venus star point. But even you can work with trines and sextiles as well. So, for example, in my case, the sun has got a 5 degrees square to that 11 degree of Scorpio because sun is on 16 degree of Aquarius in my chart. You might be wondering how much orb you would give to it. I would really go tight with that because that Venus star point, moves 2 degree every 8 years, right? So therefore, I would not give more than 2 degree orb. But I have got one on 17 degree of Aries. I've got 1 degree of Aquarius, 1 degree of Virgo as well. And I've got one on 24 degree of Gemini. So you can look at all those points in your chart, but remember the most important one is going to be the one prior to your date of birth. So you can look up that in that table, what I showed you when the previous one happened, and that's going to be one of the most important Venus star point of your chart. Now, so as I said, Venus goes retrograde in 5 signs, and basically it creates this pentagram shape if you start kind of like, tracking all the Venus movements. But some of us tends to be looking at it kind of like the movement of Venus is kind of like a rose petal as well. Now, probably in the world, a Venus star point change usually shows that our social values are going to be changing significantly. We tend to be seeing quite loads of shifts as well in the world. And you know what? Because Venus is about the feminine power, we tend to be seeing a lot more around the feminine power as well. This Venus star point is going to be tightly conjuncting actually Lilith, Black Moon Lilith. So we're going to see some type of movements when it comes to the feminine power. This is something I have been mentioning for a while, that you know what, when it comes to the equality of women and men are going to be a major topic. Leo is a sexual sign as well. So most likely we will see some type of sex scandals, but sex movements as well at the same time. Such as the trans women are really lobbying to become wanting to become kind of like called as they or she or whatever pronouns they want to be given. So this is kind of like a movement. And we will see this most likely. So one of the ways you can work with Venus star point is, as I said, look back what was going on in your life 2015, sometimes August onwards. But sometimes only this point is going to get activated when a transit comes around. So probably you want to be looking at, for example, a good 6 month window there, plus minus 6 month window, because what happens is that because Venus is actually rebirthing here, right? So it talks to us about a beginning and an end of a cycle. Something might have started in 2015, and then now you start something else instead. But a beginning is always an end of something as well. So we're going to have to walk away from something at the same time. Now, another date you might want to be looking at is because obviously, as I said, we have got the Venus retrograde making a conjunction to the Sun around the same degree. And then we have got the Venus direct as well, which is making a conjunction to the Sun as well. Now, the Venus and Sun direct conjunction happened in 2019, the last time in the sign of Leo. So usually the the direct conjunction is more to do with the peak period of what was initiated, what was planted, for example, in 2015. And in 2019, that's going to become the peak period of that. So to give you an example, for example, this took place in 2015 in my chart in the sixth house. And and the sixth house is something to do with health, but also to a certain extent, it is related to your work environment as well. 2015, I left work. 2015, I started pretty much living a little bit of a healthier lifestyle. Unfortunately, did not last that long. It was just a few years, actually, till about 2018. But I went on a weight loss journey. I started taking care of myself. I went back to the gym and so forth. I started, getting into shape. But also, I left work as well, which was a very prominent period for me. Actually, I left work, I handed in my notice sometimes in August, and that was down due to some type of discrimination I experienced at work. Now, 2019 was an interesting year for me because that is the time when I started working together with another astrologer, Lada. And basically, that was, and I also in 2015, I tried launching my astrology business full time, but unfortunately, due to some health issues of my father, I could not pursue it further. So, but 2019, I started that journey. Now, 2023, I've got obviously the Venus star point happening in the same house, just 2 degrees away from that. So this is the start of a something new, maybe a new career again, but maybe something to do with my new health routines as well. Now, I am actually having some ideas of wanting to do also something new, which is related to fitness industry. I'm really passionate about fitness at the moment. And I was thinking that because I'm spending so much time at the gym, why am I not becoming, for example, eventually a personal trainer, for example, or something to do with nutrition and so forth? And maybe I can do something on social media so that I can motivate people. I can encourage people to do the same journey like I went through in the last 2.5 years. Also, 2019 was a big year for me, by the way, because that's the 2020, especially, that's the time when I went on a weight loss journey, and then I started that with a weight loss surgery. I was way too heavy. I could not go to the gym. I had issues of walking as well. And to be frank, I was so afraid of dying that I decided I had to transform my body. So I feel like this Venus star point change for me is going to get connected somehow to fitness. But we will see. So, what do we see about this Venus star point? So, this is kind of like a little bit of an introductory. So, what we see is in the chart, and I'm going to put the chart on the screen now, but you will see that the Venus star point is actually having a very tight trine to Chiron. Now, Chiron is, I love working with Chiron, and then I even offered a promotion in a couple of weeks ago because I have about 3, 4 webinars so far about Chiron. But Chiron is the key to our healing. Chiron is half an animal, half a human, which is pretty much about embracing both human consciousness and our animal instincts as well. Obviously, the animal instinct is about self-preservation, the survival of the person, right? But the lower vibration of Chiron is about not being accepted, being rejected, and typically it brings in loads of family issues, especially mother issues as well. Now, the mother issues are coming from the fact that Chiron unfortunately got rejected by her parents because he looked ridiculous in a sense. So Apollo and Pallas Athene raised him basically, and they taught him art, music, medicine, and also clairvoyance abilities as well. So now this is having a exact trine to this Venus star point. So on one hand, it's definitely about healing the self, being accepted. Somehow your topics around money issues, love issues, for example, or the love of self is going to get highlighted. Any of your wounds or traumatic experiences will get highlighted around that. Most likely, Chiron in the sign of Aries, as well as the Venus star point in the Leo. These two signs are really connected to sexuality. So the sexual diseases could be highlighted here significantly. There could be a lot more topic about those, but also just the sexuality itself. Also, Chiron is our greatest gift. It's kind of like a little bit of an unlocking a door there. Once we open that door, then we discover something behind that door and we realize what a gift we've got there. So it's about unlocking your true potentials. Remember that Leo, and I'm going to talk to you about Leo a little bit more today, so that we definitely can enhance this Venus star point in a very good way. But Leo is about your special gifts overall. And Chiron says to you here that you need to have a little bit of a holistic approach of healing yourself. The lower vibration of Chiron is victimhood. It's about suffering. It's about pain. Often it's about self-hatred as well, because he looked ridiculous, right? He was half a human, half an animal. And Leo is about vanity. So how you look like, or what you see when you look into the mirror, and the self-acceptance, these are becoming a major topic here for the next 8 years. You know what? If we thought that plastic surgery has been rising, and apparently plastic surgery has risen since 2019, actually by about 80%, then probably we're gonna see this even more significantly. Now, this Venus star point is, by the way, getting squared by Uranus. So we probably gonna see a lot more change in sexuality, for example, but our sexual approach, how we love others, how we want to be loved by others as well. This Venus star point is really telling you that, you know what, I deserve attention from others as well. I've been saying it for a while, but to be frank, I really much feel like that uh, languages will change significantly, and all these she, he, and so forth are going to be disappearing from the dictionary, and it's not going to happen tomorrow. But we might start seeing that in the next 8 years, that it's going to vanish. Somehow we're going to start simplifying. But anyway, that's just my opinion. Do I agree with that? Well, I've got my opinion, and I don't want to hurt anyone's opinion, because we are all entitled. And this is exactly what Chiron in Aries says. We are entitled to be who we are, but I don't necessarily agree with it, to be frank. Chiron also represents refugees, but I'm going to talk to you about the history a little bit. You will see in 2015 there was, for example, this European refugee crisis situation. So the refugee issues most likely will return, or it's going to take a new phase, and there's going to be some type of solution to it. So, but also Chiron, so is about how to heal yourself. I tend to be looking at Chiron as the wounds coming from childhood, and Aries is really about the first 18 months of our life. So I feel like loads of spiritual development about psychological development as well. We're going to go through in the next 18 years. You know what? There are two types of wounds, right? One of them is what we experience as a child, right? And those are called primal wounds in psychology. And then we have got the ones which we actually receive as an adult, right? So the primal wounds, we don't always remember them, but we're going to have to work with them. Well, the primal wounds are the result of the violation in early life that resulted in the feeling of non-being, non-accepted. Feeling of non-being tend to show up in form of loneliness, frustration, betrayal, impotence, isolation, fear, shame. All these keywords are really Chiron related topics. Why am I feeling ashamed of who truly I am? And then what happens is when we are not able to express the true identity of ourselves, you know what? We're going to get addicted with Chiron, right? And we're going to go and become sex addict. We're going to go and take drugs. We're going to get drunk at parties at all times and all these type of things, you know. So even Venus is retrograde, and there is an aspect to Chiron. There is this psychological invitation to turn inwards, to understand your greater pain, to find that key to unlock the door so that you can have the ability to heal overall. And I also believe that Chiron is so much to do with the repetition compulsion. The repetition compulsion is also often called as trauma reenactment. It involves repeating physically and emotionally painful situations that happened in the past, basically reliving past traumas in the current state of your life. So, you know what? If you had some traumatic experiences at the age of 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, then pretty much what happens is that you might be reliving them, or it gets spotlighted for you, which you need to be overcoming. Now, why am I mentioning these ages? Because remember that the Venus star point kind of like is a Venus return chart, and it happens every 8 years. You know, I feel like the Venus return chart is just a little segment of the bigger cycle of Venus star point overall. So think back what was going on in your life, 8, 16, 24. You know, so while I was preparing for this video, you know, I started thinking that age 16, I lost my grandma. Age 24, I relocated to England. Age 32, and so forth. You know, so these are somehow representing some of the bigger events of our lives. Um, so now we can talk about Chiron a lot more, which I'm not gonna do, but it's a trine here, which is really about getting in touch with your heart desire. Another thing you can actually see here is that it has got quite a tight square to Uranus. Now, you know what Uranus says in the sign of Taurus, that we're going to have to get out of our comfort zone. If you want changes in your life, you're going to have to act on them. You must make changes. You need to check out your routines. There is a wake up call here coming from Uranus. It shakes the core element of your love life, your money attachment, your desires. You know what? If I want to be rich, what action am I going to take? If I want to be in a relationship, what action am I going to take? Because whatever has been going on is just not working for us. Uranus is kind of like the electricity, right? So it's electrifying of self acceptance. It's electrifying to become who you truly are and to be your true, authentic yourself. It wants you to be the real you. It tells you that it's time to do things differently. You have been trying to do certain things, you know, in one way, it didn't work out. So what's the point in going forward? Trying to pursue the same thing. Let's be inventive about it. But Chiron there is telling you that, you know what, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be crying sometimes. It's okay to show the world and put your heart on a stage, Leo. But in order for you to do that, you're going to have to break down some of your old patterns and look at what gifts you've got. Look at what gifts you want from life overall. Bring your story to the world. Yes, on a world scale, this is pretty much talking to us about the change of the world, the change of our financial approach, the change of the financial system, actually. Most likely, you know what, we're going to see some new trends, new arts, new music trends. Maybe we're going to see some type of new uh, music um, shows, for example, new music shows. I can pretty much imagine with that. Most likely, you know what music pretty much went down in 2015 is kind of like coming to an end, and then something new start. Leo can represent anything to do with sports as well. So new legislations for example, around sports. Maybe many of the sport records are going to be broken, for example. You know, I mean, when I looked at what was going on in 2015, you know what, that's when the same sex marriage got approved. So surely the same sex marriage is going to become a major topic in the next uh, 8 years. And I recently read something which I'm not 100% sure what I read, but I kind of recall now that in 20 states, or in America, they started kind of controlling something around the same-sex marriage or something to do with the trans community. Something is going down there. Obviously, this is a huge topic at the moment. But if you think about Trump started his campaign in 2015, or climate change has become a major topic since 2015. But also, Russia intervened in the Syrian war, which actually I think lasted for about 4 years. And as I mentioned before, we had also this refugee crisis going on in Europe as well. But I think the entertainment industry is going to be very significant as I major changes around that. So it could really talk to us about, unfortunately, that a music icon is going to be disappearing, for example. Or it could talk to us about, if I'm not mistaken, actually, probably Billie Eilish came onto the horizon around 2015. I'm not too sure, I would need to kind of check that up. But I think Billie Eilish has become somehow a major name. I might be wrong, though. I might be wrong. So, you know, you would need to check that. But if she became pretty much of a big deal around that time, you know what? Maybe she's gonna disappear. Maybe she's gonna decide that, you know what, I don't want to do more music. I do know that maybe it wasn't Billie Eilish. Maybe actually Billie Eilish was 2019. I think Justin Bieber came around 2015, or Adele actually popped up on the charts, I think, with her song called Hello. Hello from the Hello, it's me, and so forth, if you remember that song. So maybe we're going to see some return of these too. I know that the Brit Award became extremely big, and Ed Sheeran, Paloma Faith, Sam Smith. I think Sam Smith is going to be a big name. I mean, not a big name, but a big topic, especially because of his controversy ways of acting out. I think Apple Music came around in 2015 on top of my head as well. So most likely we might see a new application, more affordable, or Apple Music is going to be, kind of like redesigning their image, right? Leo is also about image as well. And I know that One Direction, I think, quitted 2015 as well. I mean, Zayn quitted One Direction in 2015. Maybe we see a new big boy group coming around, or maybe One Direction is going to come together and they're going to start doing a tour, you know. I also remember definitely Sam Smith. I feel like he's going to be a big topic. Uh, that's 2015 when he came out with this Bond theme song. Actually, one of my favorite one from him. I pretty much liked his music around that time. Unfortunately, not necessarily keen on his music now. I know Jess Glynn became quite a big one around that time too. So we might see the return of these people, but I feel like we're gonna be having some major new pop icons coming around. Okay. Now, what else do we see in this chart? So also we see that apart from Uranus, what is making a square, actually Jupiter will be making a square to this Venus star point as well. So, you know, Jupiter amplifies things. Jupiter is blowing things out of the ballpark. You know, Venus is going to go direct, very interesting, around the 3rd of September, and then within 24 hours, Jupiter is going to go retrograde, right? So therefore, their dancing between each other is going to last for a little bit of a while. You know, so Venus, while it moves forward and it wants to kind of act on their desire, Jupiter actually loses a little bit of an optimism here. And then Jupiter wants to do some reflection. There is a little bit of a self-doubt going on with this Jupiter. But we do see a sextile to Mars and Mercury as well in the sign of Virgo, which is really about planning, looking at the details, being a little bit more organized about our desires, pretty much coming up with some type of priorities as well at the same time. You know, what's the most important part? To buy a pair of shoes or something else instead? Now, as I mentioned, or as I wanted to do, I wanted to talk to you very briefly about the Leo archetype a little bit. You know, Leo is fixed fire, it's a masculine energy, it's the middle of the summer season. I feel like with this Venus star point, because 2015 we had loads of fire going on, unfortunately, in Australia as well. I forgot to mention that to you. But probably we're going to be having some record temperatures happening. So we're gonna need the fan and we're gonna need unfortunately the air conditioning. And the worst case scenario is that unfortunately we're gonna see some fire going down, unfortunately, some parts of the world. And maybe actually Australia is unfortunate. I mean, unfortunately, Australia might be at danger again. You know, it's kind of like Leo is the campfire, right? So it's the stove, it's a steady flame, what it pretty much represents. The archetypes of Leo is the king, the father, the leader. So it wants you to have not just the desire to be in the driving seat of your own car, but actually, you know what? Let's go ahead. Let's become that leader. Leo is about self-employment as well. You're gonna have to use your creativity, you're going to have to show a warm, generous heart as well to others as well. Because the worst case scenario with Leo is that we become egotistical and we only care about ourselves. Venus is about making compromises as well at the same time. So often with Leo, we become a little bit narcissist. You know, it's about having fun, enjoying life to the fullest, being admired for your own achievement. But with the Chiron trine is about celebration of what I have achieved so far as well. You know, it's about fixing, healing your ego. I am who I am. If you remember that song, you know, now I'm not going to start singing on YouTube. You know, this is not my singing channel, but there is that song, I am who I am. And I feel that comes to my mind with this Leo type of energy. It's about bravery. It's about your love life. It's about how you love yourself as well. It's the realization that self-love is one of the most significant one. And you know what? We have been talking about self-love, I think, since 2015. It has become a very popular word. And there is a reason for that, right? So I feel like Leo is an invitation here to be the middle of the attention of yourself. That I do matter. I'm very important. I don't know fear anymore. You know, the love of your success story, being courageous, not being disheartened by any of the failures. How am I going to stand up and how am I going to go forward to achieve what I want? Yes, these harmonies, this talks about luxury, vanity, narcissism, egocentric behavior. Everything is around me. I'm just looking into the mirror, and you know what? I want to look better and better and better. And maybe I'm just farting too much and I'm becoming a little bit lazy. And then when someone criticizes me, I cannot necessarily accept that. Now, because Venus, star point is happening in the sign of Leo, you know, Venus represents money. Some of the fields which might be coming or blooming, or there's going to be some changes around that, is self-employment, film directing, luxurious items, or a showman business, or producing, talent management. Entertainment industry could be going through a major one, or who can go to casinos and so forth. Sport-wise, you know what, this is golf, tennis, even sailing, something which is more the expensive sports and the elite circles, pretty much. You know, those might be going down significantly. But I think the love language of people will be changing significantly. You know, it might want you to realize that, you know what, nowadays we feel like that love is truly there when we get an expensive gift from the partner. And maybe that's something we're gonna have to revisit here a little bit, you know, that love is not necessarily like about that, you know. But also from a fear point of view, often this is about falling into oblivion. When I feel like I'm losing my charm, when I get ridiculed, or I'm gonna stay lonely, no one wants me anymore. You know, the Leo script is very much about, you know, when there is not a little bit of an excitement going on in my life, then I have to be creating some, you know, or I if I don't do things on my own, and I'm you know, I'm putting my pride aside, that I'm not going to be needed anymore because I'm replaceable, you know. So what you are here to pretty much learn, that I can be still a leader, but by getting others involved as well. Now, guys, this is just a little short video about the Leo star point. I hope you have loved it. But surely this is a big beginning somehow, because the Leo moon, full moon, the Leo lunation is taking place in a few days as well. And actually, the chart is almost the same. So listen to the Leo lunation report I just made recently. It's getting posted today. I mean, sorry, yeah, it's getting posted today because I'm recording this video today, but this video might be getting posted tomorrow. So thank you, everyone. See you soon. Bye-bye.